One thing is for sure, UFC and their fans love fighters on the rise. They don't necessarily have to be undefeated, but it sure helps. Unfortunately, not all of them reach their final destination.
Big hammer fist by Topuria. There it is. Big shot. Oh, big hit. It's over.
Rozenstruik is out. Ngannou. What a right hand. Yanez nearly out.
During their rise through the rankings, they often face someone who finally stops them. And that is our topic for today. 10 fighters who managed to destroy dreams and hand losses to their fighting colleagues. But before we start the list, you know where the like and subscribe buttons are, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss everything else we post on YouTube. Without further ado, let's get into it. If we look at the names of Rob Font's last 10 opponents, we can see his resume crowded with bantamweight killers. Some fights he lost, some he won, but the level of his competition cannot be disputed, and in 90% of cases, the only way to stop Rob is to push him to a decision. However, in 2023, Font entered the octagon after 2 losses to face the young and hungry Adrian Yanez. Adrian delighted the UFC audience by knocking out 4 out of 5 opponents and winning bonuses for supreme performances. Font was supposed to be a big, and some would say easy, stepping stone for Yanez, who seemed unstoppable in his run. But people forgot how dangerous Rob was. Although the odds were on the side of the striker from Texas, Font stopped his rise in the first round with powerful punches to give him the first knockout loss in his career with the performance of the night bonus.
That jab is beautiful.
What a right hand. Yanez nearly out.
What a huge victory for Rob Font.
Adrian also lost the next bout due to a leg kick TKO, which further dampened his previous brilliance. Raul Rosas Jr. is known as the youngest fighter in UFC history to sign their contract. The kid was amazing. Even as an amateur, he submitted his opponents in the first round, and the winning streak continued in the professional world as well. He shined at the Contender Series and in his UFC debut against Jay Perrin with a first-round submission. But his undefeated streak came to a halt in the second fight. Raul's opponent was the slightly older Christian Rodriguez with a record of 8-1, who, as he says, was more than happy to stop the Mexican hype. Rodriguez intelligently quelled the wrestling attacks and ensured himself control time, and he was much better in the striking department, taking home a more than deserved unanimous decision win and picking up the 9th win in his 10th professional bout. Raul Rosas took his first loss in his 8th professional appearance. However, we mustn't write him off just yet, because he came back later in 2023 with a first-round KO. We have already talked about how young lions love to feed on the older ones. In one of the trash-talking videos, we talk about the hell of a beat-down cowboy Cerrone gave Alexander Hernandez. Today we have a more recent example starring Dustin Poirier, but without excessive trash talk. After Diamond was knocked out by Justin Gaethje in 2023 for personal reasons, he returned quickly to the next fight. Poirier did not have to accept, but being the dog he was, he did. His opponent was Benoit St-Denis, young French fighter on a superb 5-fight finishing streak with a 13-1 score since 2019. Dustin had more to lose than to win, and he didn't have to prove himself to the fans, but as he said, he did to himself. After surviving an early storm of being outstruck, taken down, and spamming unsuccessful guillotines, DP came back for a charge in the second, where he hurt Benoit badly and proceeded to knock him out with a sharp right hand, thus handing him his first KO loss. Dober is one of those guys who likes to spoil his own winning streak. That doesn't mean he doesn't have time to ruin other careers too. Always fun to watch, and when he wins, it's usually by knockout. Thus, in 2022, he stopped Terrence McKinney's 5-fight winning streak. The T-Rex machine was just starting to warm up in the UFC with 2 quick wins in the first rounds, but he was too confident to return to the cage only 2 weeks after his second UFC fight. Still, Dober was there to give the young fighter a taste of his own medicine, knocking him out in the first round.
It's showing as well. Oh, and nails McKenney, and now Dober's on top. Dober's hammering away. True shot!
It is important to note that before McKenney, Dober used the opportunity to forcibly ground another young prospect, Nasrat Haqparast, who was on a 3-fight winning streak with an impressive 11-2 record. Drew was the man to hand him his first KO loss in his career. Do you want to stop two young and undefeated fighters in a short time? Call Bryan Barbarena. After losing in the fight of the night in 2015, Bryan returned the next year with 2 great wins in less than 4 months. I'll remember the hype surrounding the young martial artist Sage Northcutt, who finished 5 opponents outside of the UFC, and then 2 more when he arrived in the promotion. After having a tough time in the first round, Barbarena survived to drown Sage in the second with an arm triangle to break his undefeated record. Not long after that, Bryan is back against another undefeated guy, Warlley Alves, with 10 wins and 9 finishes. Just like against Sage, Barbarena had a not-so-good start, but over time he stepped on the gas pedal to secure himself a decision victory and give 25-year-old Alves his first loss in MMA, who lost his luster in the rest of his career. Francis Ngannou was a guy whose hype train was derailed, but the Predator made it come to life once again, where he continued to knock out opponents and destroy other people's dreams. One of those was Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who had a similar career to Francis, with 10 wins and 9 knockouts. Considering the weight of the fists of both men, it is not surprising that the fight was over in 20 seconds. It was a question of which of the 2 giants would reach the head first, and Ngannou was first to land. But that is not all.
It's over.
Rozenstruik is out. Ngannou
Out bad.
After that heavyweight crowning, it was Francis's turn to unify the title against Cyril Gane, the undefeated Frenchman who was supposed to be technically superior and faster than Francis in striking. However, since it was not a kickboxing fight but MMA, the Predator utilized his wrestling for the first time ever to take the win and spoil another perfect record while defending his title. Hate him or love him, Masvidal had a hell of an MMA career, and his UFC redemption was something you see once in a lifetime. Just when his career was being stifled by 2 consecutive losses, one of which was a title eliminator, Jorge Masvidal rose from the deepest hell to shine once more. Before you start jumping to conclusions, yes, Darren Till's hype was derailed by Tyron Woodley, but Masvidal was the man who, after 2 defeats, came to Till's backyard and gave him his first knockout defeat.
Such his power shot.
Not giving him a chance to come back to winning column. Ben Askren was the dominant champion with Bellator and 1 championship belts under his name. He was the undefeated wrestler with 19 wins before kissing the knee of the game bred in the fastest knockout in UFC history. Honorable mention is also the fight against Cowboy Cerrone, who was on a 4-fight finishing streak before getting knocked out by Jorge. If Volkanovski managed to destroy Ilia's unbelievable MMA score, now we would be writing about him. But that didn't happen, and that's why Ilia Topuria is here with 2 brutally ended winning streaks. The man cleared everything the UFC threw his way, except Josh Emmett, of course. Even if we exclude that he dethroned an elite champion with a first knockout in the last 10 years of Alexander's career, let's remember how he stopped Ryan Hall. BJJ Prodigy had a tough time finding an opponent until Ilia signed the contract. Hall was on a 7-fight winning streak coming into the fight, where Topuria stifled leg lock attempts and brutally separated him from consciousness in the first round. It was satisfying to watch, and Ryan finally found out what it feels like to be knocked out while spamming Imanari rolls. With 15 wins in a row and 0 losses, Bryce Mitchell was smiling at the opportunity to attack the featherweight title. That is, of course, until Ilia came and committed a crime against the Arkansas fighter and then finished him the way Bryce finished his opponents, with deep submission. Derek Brunson is a man who is a master of destroying other people's winning streaks, but unfortunately also his own. The guy impresses with 4 wins and then ties 2 losses. But when it comes to wrecking UFC prospects, he excels there. Let's remember how he first destroyed the hype train of 23-year-old Edmund Shabazyan, who was on an 11-fight winning streak. The Golden Boy was shooting for the moon, but Brunson was there to ground him with a 3rd-round ground and pound. Immediately after that, he beats Kevin Holland, who was on a great run with 4 wins and 3 knockouts. Blonde Brunson wrestling was enough for a convincing decision victory. It would be good to mention that in 2015, Derek was the one to derail Dan Kelly's career, who was 6-1 in the UFC. The man managed to sabotage both his own and other people's careers. And finally, we come to fan favorite and current BMF, Max Blessed Holloway. Max did a great job in the role of champion, and even when he didn't have the title in his hands, he made sure no one besides him got in the cage with the champion. Even Alexander Volkanovski told him to change divisions because no one else gets to fight for the championship. Holloway stopped the undefeated 14-0 Bryan Ortega in his second title defense, giving him a beating he hadn't felt in his career. It was so bad that the doctor had to stop the fight. In 2023, Arnold Allen had one more stop to make before fighting for the title. But unfortunately, Mad Max was there to stop his unbeatable 10-fight UFC streak with a decision victory. Let's note that Blessed was also the man to halt Charles Oliveira's second title run in 2015. Even though Charles hurt himself early in the first round, there is still a win on Max's resume, but even without it, Max is a winning streak destroyer. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will leave honorable mentions for you in the comments section so we can make another video with your suggestions. If you have turned on notifications, you will definitely be notified soon about a new video on our channel. It was a pleasure to create content for you. Peace out.